Third cast lucky. Okay, we're in the drawing. The Wi-Fi is strong. I have everything next to me. We'll try again. Welcome. Thank you for your patience. Happy Saturday, the 27th of June 2020. Let me just get into the systems, get your comments up, and then we will look at moving forward. Alright fam, thank you very much for your patience. Get yourself comfy, get yourself a pen and paper, a drink, sit back, relax, and let it all wash over you. Thank you for your patience. I'm just going to share now. Okay, to FB and to the .com. And then we'll begin. Just bear with me. On the replay you can skip, forward it. Let's see how you get on with that. Let me get you on my screen. Refresh and we shall begin. I hope it's worth the wait in the attire. And we just check one more thing and we shall begin. So say hello to yourselves, greet, meet, etc. Your fist bumps and hearts in. That's done. Very good. I'll just do it to the .com and we are ready to roll. I'm very excited about bringing this to you, to be fair. It's been a long time coming, very long. We are kind of lost. The Walking Dead, the television programs, the Hollywood, it's kind of prepared you for these times and where we are. There we go. So yeah, I'd like your comments. I'll review the comments afterwards. Maybe not all, because this might be a 2-hour presentation, so it's not going to be fast and it's going to be quite in depth. So we'll be live later on the .com from 9:30 as usual tonight, and then we'll be live on YouTube to discuss all of the topics and areas that we need to. I'd like to say thank you all again for joining. I've got the chat screen here. I see what go on. Is the audio good? It is indeed. I'd like to say hello and blessings to Jerry, Anders, Fly, Yar, Claire, and the 8 watching. Bosh, thank you. I hope you enjoy this presentation. It is a continuation of the video presentation document that I've done involving the ancient Egyptian mythology, antiquities, from antiquities with regards to pre-Christian gnosticism, 3000 BC. We started at Zoroaster, 6000 BC, and looking at Ahura Mazda, you will find that the depictions of all of these sky gods, ancient deities, and etc. Are depicted in Iraq, the Middle East, and that's where we bombed in the 90s due to the Kuwaiti oil crisis, a general storm in Norman, and the way that the invasion was done in the Middle East with regards to freeing the peoples through extensive bombing. Remember the smashing of architecture in general, the looting of Iraqi Saddam's museums. Its history has when you look back on it, a clear path that's been, bent and rewritten. The winners of wars rewrite history. So there's a lot to look at after this presentation and to discuss. I've had a lot of things drop into place as I've been looking, chatting and discussing, and then I can see why we might have the Western might have attacked the Eastern, Middle Eastern, Far East, etc. and their gnosis of ancient Egypt, gods, thousands of years. The pharaonic civilization was closely related to religion. Historians considered it one of the most important foundations of the establishment of Egyptian civilization, the gods that they have there more than 5,000 years ago, and one of the pillars of the founding and unification of the Egyptian state. The worship of various Egyptian deities continued for more than 3,000 years. The symbols of the Egyptian deities were worshipped in a time frame that exceeds the age of the Egyptians, condemning Christianity and Islam combined. Nearly 2,800 deities worshipped in Egypt, okay, with different names as symbols of all forces of nature, and the most prominent and important ones of them are Ra, Amun, Osiris, Isis, Horus, Aten, Hathor, Nut, Geb, Set, Sekhmet, Sobet, Bastet, Anubis, and Thoth. Egypt, Thoth, Greek, Hermes Trismegistus. And we're going to look at all of the mixtures and deities and the historical comparisons going forward with what I've got here. This is a 85-page document of 33,000 words, all right, so I'm not reading it all today, but I've put in the video of the nun, and this is the document I'm reading from now that you'll have seen. I've posted the video on Facebook, the.com, and on Indie, on the community channel. You can find a pre-document to this document I'm reading in video form, and I think I've uploaded it to the.com in the literature resource library vault we have. So we've got the guiding star O-Ra and the waking of the dead, the magnetic magician's crown of the Magi, or Magi, the waking of the dead. And my interpretation of a guiding star backwards, R-A-T-S, rats, is someone that you want to follow. The star that the three kings followed, all right? Was it a star? Was it a UFO? Did they follow a person, a man, a name, a god? UFOs in Egyptian times and times around them were described as flying shields. There's a lot of confusion here. Eric Van Daniken and the Sky Gods, subsequent publications by that man and others. And while I was compiling this last week, Kevin has inspired this by some comments he made regarding antiquities, the gnosis of pre-Christian, Roman Catholic, Judeo-Christian gnosis and history, and he made some comments, so I said I'd put something together which is going to fill in the gaps, some of the gaps. As you can appreciate, it's a lot of continuum, a lot of timelines, a lot of figures, a lot of wars and battles. And while I'm doing this, I had a message from my mum come through, and it says that she's got a message for us, and I'd like to read that message that my mum sent to me last week, 24th of June 2020, Messages from the Universe, she's called it. She said that she's just finished her usual morning yoga session and was asking the archangels for protection and healing for her family and friends, loved ones and animals. And when she started to receive thoughts, which led to the following. And she felt she had to warn, not you, but the family, this is a private message I'm sharing with you, to be extra safe today and in the near future. Things are very risky at the moment, as you can all see, with the pandemics and epidemics and the second wave, and the, I don't make light of this in any way, but you can fathom out what all this means in your own way, meaning to you, your own interpretation. And she felt the need to do a card reading. She has lots of different sets of cards, Doreen Virtue, angel cards, and some Egyptian cards and tarots and so forth. So she stood by the shelving unit that houses her angel cards packs and the Egyptian tarot, and she wondered which ones to use at the time to interpret messages that she was feeling. And she's never used the tarot cards before, the Egyptian tarot cards. She felt she should use these cards, but not as indicated as in the instructions of the cards, but how she uses the Doreen Virtue thing, angel cards. So she's done that, and that means that you shuffle the cards until you're drawn to a card, or one pops out, falls out, or is the wrong way up, or just presents itself to you. And she knew there was a message that was something to do with the current situation being given to her, channeled, felt, vibed, And there may be a warning message coming through which she needed to share, again, personally, private, with the fam. And 2 cards popped out and she shuffled using Major Arcana set. And the first card that popped out was XX. It's 1010, I believe, yes. Judgment. It was labelled, entitled The Waking of the Dead. Renewal letter, Rasith R, number 200. R equals 200 and expresses the passage from earthly life to future life. A genius blows a trumpet over a tomb that is partially closed. A man, a woman and a child, the collective symbol of the human trinity, rise from their funeral bed. This signified the change that is everything, in good as well as evil. And footnote 40 reads, "Remember, O sons of earth, every piece of good luck is mobile, even the one that seems the most stable. Ascension of the spirit is the fruit that you must gather from your subsequent trials. Hope during suffering, but do not trust prosperity. Do not abandon yourself to laziness or even to oblivion. In a moment unknown to you, the wheel of fortune will turn, and you will be raised up high, or you may be dashed down by the Sphinx." Positive is change of position, birth, moral renewal, reawakening, examination of conscious or consciousness, conscience, moment of transition towards improvement, recovery of physicality, the second death. Remember what I said about registration and the certificate and the second coming of man, reborn, dead, legally, titles, rights, parents, passing over, second death, initiation into the mysteries of life. My mum didn't realise what she was sending to me and how that might be interpreted to me with the current works and discoveries, examinations and notices and proclamations we're doing at the minute with regards to claims, property, rights and life in general. The negative, delusion, failure, deserved punishment, remorse, repentance, unjustified doubts, prolonged illness, delay, and unfavourable movement. Got to put mandatory in there, unfavourable mandatory movement, but that will do. So that was quite startling to read, the first card. We've got the second card, which is XXI, so the world. XX, 1010, I1, 21. The Magician's Crown, recompense. The letter is Thoth, T, number 400. Sorry for repeating this, the ones that are on the replay, but bear with me. And the ones that are live, sorry, if you're on the replay, you can forward this and get to where you want. I'm going to get to document shortly. I'm just building the picture, painting the scene, setting you up. This supreme arcana of the mystique is represented by a crown of golden roses that surround a star inserted in a circle. Around this, a man's head, a bull, a lion and an eagle's head are placed at equal distances. Some of you may have recognised that image there of the 4 heads. It is a sign conferred on the magician who has reached the highest level of initiation. Wow, I'm going to research, and you're all free to go and discover yourselves on this and correct and help me edit this together as a fam. To him, the star reveals a secret whose ascensional steps have no other limits than those of his intelligence and wisdom. And there's different ways of interpreting this. There's not just one way, and it means different things to different people, but there is a generic way that you can follow. Remember, O son of earth, that the empire of the world belongs to the empire of light, and that the empire of light is the throne that God reserves for sanctified will. Happiness for the magician is the fruit of the science of good and evil, but God only allows this eternal fruit to be gathered by the man who is master enough of himself to be able to approach it without avidly desiring it. I found it by accident, is what I read into that. Positive, like this. I found this by accident in a message, and I'm incorporating it into a presentation and to expand upon previous works and current works, and it fits slap back into the middle. It's amazing. Positive sides of this are prosperous environment, favourable circumstances, greater fortune, perfection, totally successful results, crowning of an undertaking. Remember the chronos and the Latin, and the what was we putting into there? The crown, the corona, to do with COVID and so forth, that I put in I think it was February, late February, regarding cosimo cycles and interpretations of. So crowning of an undertaking, recompense, reintegration of the mind, knowledge, ecstasy, cosmic cosimo cycle. The negative parts of this card: reading, interpretation, imperfection, failure, delusion, unsurmountable obstacles, setbacks, lack of success, hostile environment, strongly opposed people, trills, demons, agents of Satan, revolution, insurrection, disobedience. Wow. So I thought I'd include that with you. I've got to go through the names of history's dynasty. I have a chat to do with a brother called Keith on Facebook. I've been in touch with him. That's waiting. I've got Josh to have a chat with, a podcast. Keith, Lyndon, and Gansders. Not necessarily in that order, that they will be done. So on Facebook, Keith has got his name as Hotep Sek Emi. Yes, it's very hard. I'm dyslexic. I struggle with spellings, writings, pronunciations. It's very difficult for me, so please forgive my pronunciation as we go through these gods, kings, deities, idols, etc. Key figures from the lineage of 6000 BC all the way up to today, which is an 8,000 year lineage, all right? I'm not familiar with the spellings and the writings of these words. I've tried my best to reference and citate everything for you so you can find out and correct and work with me and edit it. A continuous improvement. This is not going to be bang on, word perfect, but I'll present it to you for your consideration. So Keith, I was aware of Hotep Sekemi and the gods and the dynasties. I've talked with Santos about this. I've seen what others have said, Eric von Daniken and others, scholars, self-scholars, not academic, that have brought this to us. There's a lot of channels on YouTube that do ancient antiquities, Viper. I'm not just advertising them, but Viper. I can't think of them all now, but if you know any channels that do give Sumerian, Akkad, Mesopotamia, antiquities, gnosis, then please put the links in, because that will be avidly appreciated. Zeg TV was another one, Viper TV, many. I've got a list. I've subscribed to them. I'll put them in later as we work through this document. So I'm not going to go through all of that. There's a good 20 pages, 10 or 20 pages I'm skipping about reigns and tombs and references and with regards to Hotep Sekemi and the first kings of Egypt's second dynasty. We've got the first dynasty, third dynasty, second dynasty. It does not have the prestige of the first dynasty of the great monuments built during the third dynasty. Egypt's second dynasty seems almost an interlude. It is doubtful that Egyptologists have put the effort into this era, academic, mainstream Egyptologists. They have the dynasties before and after it. Regardless, it would seem that the second dynasty must have been a time where the economic and political foundations were put into place for a strong centralized state, though through our lack of archaeological evidence does not support this conclusion at present. So I'm going to skip down to the document that I've got for you today, and we're going to look at now the words of thrice great Hermes Trismegistus, aka Thoth, and we're going to look at the wise words, although written by others, scholars themselves, not my words. I've helped reform some bits. It's continuously improving, as you can see, and changing, new discoveries. YouTube channels bringing out ancient Sumerian, artifacts and new findings and way that we look at it. The evidences, like I say, Iraq's been bombed in the 90s, and we don't have the evidences. The museums were looted. The Middle East was torn down because of political, Iraqi, Kuwaiti, gold, oils, war. So we haven't got the artifacts now to look at as much as we did have 30, 35 odd years ago. They were destroyed in the 1990s invasion of the Middle East. So we're going to go through the Hermetica. What is it? It's a collection of writings that are attributed to Thoth and Thoth, Hermes, a mythical ancient Egyptian whose wisdom is said to, a sage that is, and his wisdom is said to have transformed him into a god. Thoth, who was venerated in Egypt from at least 3000 BCE, is credited with the invention of the sacred hieroglyphic writing, and his figure portrayed as a scribe with the head of an ibis. That's like the name of the hotels you may see, or you might have seen around, IBIS, ibis, body of a man, head of a bird. It can be seen in many temples and tombs. He was, or is, if he's eternal then he is, but it was back then, the dispatcher of divine messages and recorder of all human deeds. In the great hall of judgment, the afterlife of court of the god Osiris, Thoth would establish whether the deceased had acquired spiritual knowledge and purity. I'm aware of Anubis and the weighing of the hearts, but just let me hear this out and then we'll cross-examine later on. And so deserved a place in the heavens. Thoth was said to have revealed to the Egyptians all knowledge on astronomy, architecture, geometry, medicine and religion. He was believed by the ancient Greeks to be the architect of the pyramids. The Greeks, who were in awe of the knowledge and spirituality of the Egyptians, identified Thoth with their own god Hermes. Okay, so that's an important comparison there we need to make a note of. The messenger of the gods and the guider of souls in the realm of the dead. To distinguish the Egyptian Hermes from their own, they gave him the title Trismegistus, meaning thrice great, to honour his sublime wisdom. The book attributed to him became collectively known as the Hermetica, and we've covered the hymns of Hermes, we've covered the Kybalion, we've covered the Hermetica, we've covered the Green Emerald tablets, and I have a lot of links in here for you that will be all put together, given to you at the end. So not every source and reference is given to you right now, because I want to keep my cards close to my chest until the time of the end, and then when this is released officially, then you will get all of that when I've finished my discovery. Okay, because no one gives me many sources and their works, and I see what's going off in the realm, copying, emulating, stealing, taking, making out that it's your own doings when it's others, and profiting from that in some way, whether it's extra friends, extra scribes, members, selling of documents, publications, donations, and word to the wise, don't give all of your sources away at once. But to the ones that are in here, I recognise your intelligence, intellect, discovery, and I am humbled by it. So, although largely known today, the writings attributed to Hermes or Thoth have been immensely important in the history of Western thought. They profoundly influenced the Greeks, and through their rediscovery in the 15th century Florence, helped to inspire the Renaissance, which gave birth to our modern age. The list of people who have acknowledged a debt to the Hermetica reads like a who's who of the greatest philosophers, scientists and artists that the West has ever produced. We could start with Leonardo da Vinci, Dürer, Botticelli, Roger Bacon, Paracelsus, wow, Thomas More, William Blake, Kepler, Copernicus, Isaac Newton, Sir Walter Raleigh. I think I said Sir Walter Drake on the other video. There you go, Sir Walter Raleigh, Milton, Ben Jonson. That's not the Olympic man from back in the day that got caught cheating. That's a different Ben Jonson. Daniel Defoe, Defoe, interesting family name there, Daniel Defoe. Shelley and his wife Mary. Victor Hugo and Carl Jung. It heavily influenced Shakespeare, John Donne, John Dee, and all the poet-philosophers who surrounded the court of Queen Elizabeth I. When I tell you that the monarchy and establishment were aware of the natural divine, when I say about these viruses and when we talk about the science and technology and where we're at, they know many things about many things, but they keep them close to their chest. So when I've made claims and proclamations before that we are rather backwards with our technology, money, science, the combustible engine, propulsion, energy. Yeah, we are, and it's been done on purpose, and this will help to back up what we've said before and fill in the gap. So it's not perfect, and it's open to continuous improvement. So they were surrounding the court of Queen Elizabeth I, as well as the founding scientists of the Royal Society in London. And even the leaders who inspired the Protestant Reformation in Europe. The list is literally endless. Islamic mystics and philosophers also trace their inspiration back to thrice great Hermes, and the esoteric tradition of the Jews equated him with their mysterious prophet Enoch. The Hermetica is a cornerstone of Western culture. In substance and importance, it is equal to well-known Eastern scriptures like the Upanishads and the Dhammapada and the Tao Te Ching. It's going spiky while I'm saying all of this. Unlike the texts, which are now readily available and widely read, the works of Hermes have been lost under the dead weight of academic translations. Think of, who was that old man that did some translations? I can never remember his name now. I think he passed away in the 70s. It will come to me later on. Christian Prejudice and Occult Obscurities. Until now, no simplified rendering of these writings has been available to the general readers. Previous versions in the English language are very dense, impenetrable, and loaded down with notes and subtext that make them difficult to digest. This new version, however, makes this ancient wisdom more easily accessible. It presents carefully selected extracts of the Hermetic text, linked together into a narrative and rendered into easily understandable English, Anglo, babble. What emerges is an inspiring and illuminating taste of a forgotten classic. So the early origins of the Hermetica are shrouded in mystery, but the evidence suggests it is a direct descendant of the ancient philosophy of the Egyptians. However, the handful of surviving works attributed to Hermes are not written in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, but in Greek, Latin and Coptic texts. They are all collated, or allegedly were collated, in the city of Alexandria of Egypt during the 2nd and 3rd centuries CE, Common Era, AD, whichever way you want to put that. Here, the Hermetic philosophy helped inspire some of the greatest intellectual achievements of the ancient world. And Alexandria was allegedly a great centre of learning, surpassing even Athens, its founder. Alexander the Great had conquered and united Greece, Persia, Egypt and India into one vast empire. Could you imagine that? May I just take a note there and say I did report and bring to you and inform that when I was going from Hungary to Bosnia to look at the Pyramid of the Sun and meet the researcher, the Austrian researcher, Dr. Sam Osmanovic, I saw churches as we went through, let me think, it's Serbia, Croatia, I think, or Croatia, Serbia, very small borders, and then into Bosnia, and Bosnia was several hundred kilometres, churches with the crescent moon and the cross in one on top of the church, and I had to stop and say, I've never seen that before, if that was the church there, and passing by many of them, so that really excited me, various reasons there. And here we are again, I can bring that into play there. So we had Persia, Greece, Egypt and India working as one before the Judeo-Catholic Christianity there. So cultures that had grown up more or less independently were then brought together, and there was no bigger melting pot than in Alexandria. Into this new universal city poured men and women of every race and nation: Greeks, Jews, Egyptians, Babylonians, Phoenicians, and possibly even Buddhists, from India though, associated together in relative peace. The Alexandrians were renowned for their thirst for knowledge, and under the enlightened Greek ruler Ptolemy, a library and a museum were founded where human beings first systemically collected the wisdom of the world. At its height, the Library of Alexandria allegedly housed some 500,000 scrolls. These included the works of Euclid, Archimedes, and the astronomer Ptolemy, who dominated the spheres of geometry, mathematics, and geography respectively until well into the Middle Ages. It contained the research of Aristarchus of Samos, who had shown that the Earth is one of the planets orbiting the Sun, and Eratosthenes, who had calculated the circumference of the Earth to within a few percent. Scientists of the library knew about the precession of the equinoxes and that the moon was responsible for the rhythm of the tides. Alexandria was also rich in esoteric knowledge. Pythagorism, Chaldean oracles, Greek myths, Platonic and Stoic philosophy, Judaism, Christianity and the Greek mystery schools, Zoroastrianism, astrology, alchemy, Buddhism, and of course the ancient Egyptian religion were all practiced, studied, compared and discussed here. Could you imagine that? And I know a lot of you are into alchemy at the minute, with making certain things. Never in the history of mankind has alchemy been so important, prevalent, relevant and alive. Okay, the golden age of Alexandria came to an end with the birth of the intolerant Christian Holy Roman Empire. What? That's what we seem to find, if I'm honest. And history, remember the winners of wars write the historical timelines, but we can read in between that and find, not so much now after the bombings, but we have the works of such men to look at and then be wary of the academic Masonic influence, much like the hiding of the giant skeletons of the Nephilim. Despite the sophistication and cultural achievements of the ancients, the Christians referred to them dismissively as pagans, which means country dwellers. Okay, allegedly it means country dwellers. Don't take me on fact for that. I'm open to your interpretation there. In 415 CE, Hypatia, one of the last great scientists and pagan philosophers working at the Library of Alexandria, was seized by a mob of Christians who removed her flesh with scallop shells and burnt her remains. Their leader, Bishop Cyril, was later canonized, Saint Cyril. Canonized into a saint. Wow. Sounds like you'd be poked into a cannon and fired off, doesn't it? Cannibalization of the text there. Canonized is to saint, so canonized Saint Cyril. The great library was finally destroyed as so much pagan superstition, and this wealth of knowledge was scattered to the four winds. The Christian Roman Emperor Theodosius closed pagan temples across the empire and began the previously unknown phenomenon of book burning. For the West, the 5th century, it was heard in the 1,000-year period appropriately known as the Dark Ages. The Hermetica and Islam. History shows that wherever the works of Hermes have been studied and venerated, civilization has therefore flourished, done really well, excelled itself. Pagan scholars and sages fled to the newly emerging Arab culture, taking their knowledge and the Hermetic writings with them. 200 years later, the Muslims created an empire whose learning and scientific achievements were unsurpassed. Today, you have algorithms working in technology that are of Arab descent, the mathematics so that's kind of filling in bits of gaps here as to how the Western, Eastern world that was regarded by the Western world as savage, not well, not my words, but they need help. They need civilizating. They need to be shown civilization. It's completely untrue. White man did not. Western white invasions of and the Commonwealth, the fact that we had colonial, stakes in foreign lands. So much to go on here, so take a piece of any bit you want and we'll talk later on about this. So by the beginning of the 9th century, the first university was established in Baghdad. What? So when I talk about Saddam, Iraq, the Middle East, Persia, bombings, war, politics, yeah, and these alleged, forgive me for saying this, I will ask for forgiveness now, but the backwoods towel heads of the sand, people, totally wrong, lies, and I'm sorry for the pain and the heartache that's been, and the confusion, the lack of scientific, medical, mathematical, and energy, recensions that we've had here. So the first university was established in Baghdad. That was news to me when I read that, called the House of Wisdom. Go check it. And here, many pagan works were translated. The sciences that had reached such heights in Alexandria were significantly developed, and the ancient pagan spiritual wisdom was covertly studied and practiced. I've talked about pagans and certain gnosises, and I say this now, I'm bigging up. If you are of the pagan position, and you thought that I didn't like and I had an issue with, we look at the Dagons, we look at the Dogons, very close to Dagon, Dogon, no God. The fact that the Dogon tribe of Africa talk about the dog star, Sirius B, star dog fam, wow, and dog star. So then we see that the cave stories and the 50-year celebration that the Dogons do was to be tributed by the sky people that come down from Sirius and give them the information. They were reptilian, lizard-type folk. Remember Jesus being depicted 2,000 years ago as a fish. Okay, there's something fishy about all of this. The priest's hat and the shape of that, the fish mouth on it, and so we have a lot to consider with regards to this pagan Dogon, Dagon, and fish, reptilians. The story of Dogon, no God, star dog, dog star. I've talked about this, two dog, cannabis, and the people then that came down and talked to the Dogons. Where did they go? They went into the sea, allegedly. So the fable and the historical lineage goes. So I'm not here to argue, vexate, intimidate, challenge you or your religion or your belief. A cult is to be in something where you blindly follow it and then you believe it, but you don't have the backup, the knowledge, the gnosis, or anything, much like Christianity. So I don't hate pagans, I don't hate anybody, I don't despise anybody, but what I have expressed in my time is discoveries, and when that discovery was put in that certain time, environment and light, it seems that certain members of man, communities, empires, sects, have used stuff to their advantage while others have suffered. In that instance, we show a little bit of vexation and anger, because we should all be sharing the knowledge, living equality, such as the qualities, the indifference, the inequity of it all. So to that, gnosis is bosh, all right? So I give that to you. Maybe it's a surprise to some, but we continuously improve and give you everything when we find it. Not all is written correctly, factually, insightfully. So that's all I can say on that little issue there. Next, we will go on to, from its exalted position amongst the sacred scriptures of Egyptian spirituality, the Hermetica became the secret inspiration for an important undercurrent in Islamic philosophy. and the holy book of unorthodox religious sects such as the Sabians. We would never have heard of the mysterious Sabians. That come from Santos, to be fair, when I first heard that name and word, and I had to research that. Had they not come into conflict with the religious authorities of their day. Several centuries after the death of its founder, Muhammad, Islam was beginning to succumb to the same desire for orthodoxy that had arisen in the Christian West. Heretics were to be rooted out, if necessary, with violence. In 830 CE, a powerful caliph was passing through the city of Haran when he noticed the strangely dressed Sabians and questioned their leaders. Asked to produce their sacred text, they returned with the books of Hermes. The genius philosopher, scientist Thabit ibn Qurra, Q-U-R-R-A, so Qurra, was a Sabian in 810 CE, wrote the following rousing defense of Hermetic paganism. We are the heirs and the propagators of paganism. Happy is he for the sake of paganism bears the burden of persecution with firm hope. Who else have civilized the world and built cities if not the nobles and kings of paganism? Who else have set in order the harbours and the rivers? And who else have taught the hidden wisdom? To whom else has the deity revealed itself, given oracles and told about the future, if not the famous men amongst the pagans? The pagans have made known all of this. They have discovered the art of healing the body. They also have made known the art of healing the soul. They have filled the earth with settled forms of government and with wisdom, which is the highest good. Without paganism, the world would be empty and miserable. Thabit ibn Qurra. I never thought I'd hear those words coming from me, but everything is open to continuous improvement and correction, analysis, new knowledge, first-hand information, and light comes to hand. I haven't managed to pull all this together until very recently, so I couldn't articulately give you references, citations, names, times, lineages, empires until this day today, the Saturday, the 27th of June. Another unorthodox group within the Islamic Empire, who also trace their ancestry back to thrice great Hermes, were the poets and mystics known as the Sufis. The 12th century Iranian Sufi philosopher Yahya Shurawadri made his life's work to, sorry for the pronunciations, when you read this you can check it and copy it and find out for yourself, but made its life's work to link what he called the original Oriental religion with Islam. He claimed that the sages of the ancient world had preached a single doctrine. This had been originally revealed to Hermes, who Shurawadri identified with the prophet known as Idris in the Quran and the Jewish prophet Enoch in the Greek world. He claimed this philosophy had been transmitted through Pythagoras and Plato. I have some things to say about Plato later on, but not now. And in the Middle East through the Zoroastrian Magi, M-A-G-I. Okay, so that's where the Magi comes from, and Zoroastrianism, which is 6000 BC, which is 8,000 years ago. It had been secretly passed on until it had reached himself through a direct line of enlightened sages, including his own master, Sufi mystic Al-Hallaj. Not surprisingly, Shurawadri and Al-Hallaj were executed by the religious authorities for heresy. Al-Hallaj by crucifixion. All right. Let me just find you a man's name, because I've been trying to think of it for many paragraphs, and I need to get this name out before I forget. So they are, bear with me, let's just have a break a minute. I need to get this name out because it's doing my head in. Who was it that decoded the Sumerian, what's the old man's name that died in the 70s, that decoded the cuneiform Sumerian clay translation? It's doing my head in what his name is. Clay tablet translations, bear with me. What is his name? If you can put it in the room, put it in the room, and then I'll proceed on. What was that man's name who was allegedly miscoded, mistranslated them on purpose? And when we hear stories of this, also comes into play, but I haven't included him yet in this, but he needs adding in. Clay tablet translation by Sumerian, maybe I need to use the certain words. It's on the tip of my tongue, that man's name. Let me go to videos, maybe that will help. Sitchin, yes Nonna, thank you. This is the master brain. You see why we have a master brain? Yes, Zachariah Sitchin. So all this, spiking us straight away. All of this, bear that in mind, and thank you, because he needs adding in. So this is still a work in progress, so he needs adding into here at a later point. Hermes and the reawakening of Europe. Bosh, thank you to Nonna and Bruno and whoever else put Sitchins there. Yes, With the Arab Empire becoming increasingly intolerant, the owners of the Hermetic books travelled in search of a safe refuge. In the 15th century, many allegedly fled to the tolerant city-state of Florence in northern Italy. So think of now the church, the Latin, the papacy, Francis, the biblical writings of, and the corrections and the missing books from the Gospel of Thomas. Wow, too much to go on here. It is really, it's like a holographic cube. We're inside the middle of a holographic cube, and any way is possible here. A bit like Willy Wonka's lift. I don't want to go right now, but we need to later. In the 15th century, many fled to the tolerant city-state of Florence in northern Italy, where this wisdom again inspired a great cultural flowering. In 1438, the Byzantine scholar Gemisto Plethon made available to the awestruck Florentines the entire lost works of Plato. These and other pagan works were translated into Latin for the very first time. Okay, the ruler of allegedly, I need to confirm, but it looks like I need to have another hangout with Brother Santos and Jordan, if possible, and get all of this to them, key points in articulation, and then really hammer this home. So the ruler of Florence, the philanthropist and scholar Cosimo de' Medici. I've mentioned the Medicis before, the Franciscan friars, and the publications of your foundation level of the Sovereign SMG, your Masters Guild there, and Trust Crowns, the lineages there. So the scholar Cosimo de' Medici, medicine, all right, there's too much for me I can't splinter, established a new Platonic academy, a group of intellectuals and mystics who found their inspiration in ancient pagan philosophy. Kevin, I hope you're enjoying this, because you did say to me you get lost in certain bits when we're having hangouts and chats, and if you do watch this on the replay, or you use this document later on, and this enlightens not just Kevin, but he was the one that's inspired this, so we all need to give a fist bump to Brother Kev. Bearing in mind I've been out all week, last week I've probably lost about 10 pints in liquid, being out there earning some kind of a living, a crust, and then I've managed to get this together, cobbled, not finished, and open to interpretation. We'll work on this on the .com, and then once it's finished, we'll bring it out finished with all of the references and citations in for you. I've put 95% of all references and citations into this document from all areas, so I've only kept 5% away, all right? So you'll get the rest of that at the end point. It profoundly influenced great names like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Botticelli, and Raphael. That's the Ninja Turtles, I hear you say. No, it isn't, but there you go. There was another clue there with the. Sorry, I can't help but Splinter, who began painting pictures of the ancient pagan gods. Botticelli's Venus and Mars, for example, was painted at a precise astrological moment as a talisman of occult radiance, capable of magically transporting the viewer to an altered state of spiritual awareness. Now that needs a moment to sink in. Cosimo sent out agents to look for other lost pagan works. What? Agents? Back in the day, agents, they're not a new invention then. And that might still be awaiting discovery. In 1460, one of them came across the lost works of thrice great Hermes. Imagine that, which was nice. And brought them to Florence. The Florentines, already reeling from the discovery that an ancient civilization of immense sophistication had risen and fallen nearly 2,000 years before them, now believed they had in their hands the words of the most ancient sage of them all. Cosimo ordered his young Greek scholar Marsilio Ficino, I really need Santos at this moment, his work on translating Plato, and to begin immediately on this new Egyptian text. Ficino had it ready in time to read to Cosimo just before his death. What a man, right? But that wasn't an easy task to do by any means. The emergence of a glorious new culture in Florence signalled the end of the Dark Ages. We call this period the Renaissance. We're in a Renaissance right now in 2020, as you can see, meaning rebirth. We're about to go into the age of Aquarius in 2025, so we're in a pregnancy stage right now of the universe and the cosmos and the zodiac and consciousness and the trinity of man, woman, man and child. And the quantums in the science and the language coming in, it's truly incredible. We call this period the Renaissance, meaning rebirth, which is a fitting name for you. I need to read something now about rebirth. Gansders, you don't know what you've done. My mum and Gansders have had an integral part of this, and I need to read you something what I posted late last night as I was watching something Gansders told me to recommended for me to have a look at, and he didn't know I was writing this either, much like my mum when she sent me the link, and I couldn't believe what go on there. Just pause a minute again. Oh great, so now I can't see much, it's being restricted. You can see what I wrote. I have a very special Saturday presentation for you all, which is now, the presentation is on. The lost keys are being returned. The deeper you look, the more you will see. It is time for man to leave the hive mind and the zombie world. We're going to murder the inner zombie and begin to enter your rebirth. Self-help is for winners, and it's time to get born again. This is not a cult. We have explained what a cult actually is. A-C-U-L-T, cult, a cult, not a cult and not a cult. What a cult is. Blindly following without truly knowing the facts, such as within Christianity. Man is all dying, or you are all dying. You're dying for something better. Let the new dawn draw in. The legacy has been created. And then I put some nice little things about faith, hope, justice, people, land, power. Which way does it go? Up and down. We got the spelling of a little bit of a David there, and we got some nice pictures that I put onto there. A little bit of promotions for the trust and what we do there, some symbology, and just pictures that I thought were relevant at the time. What? Who's that? Yeah, this is in the pub. Some of these pictures are in the publications for you to have a look at. The fish 2,000 years ago. It's all linking in nicely now. Very, very nicely. So I think that's all the relevant pictures I've got for you there. Rastafarians. Thank you, Adi, for that. I think so, yeah. Do like that lion, Greg. You did well there, lad. Yeah, so we'll get these. Most of you have seen these pictures. I've put them on and shared them before. So what? That was a good film there. That's pictures from a film. And then we've got, some of you may be disturbed by seeing these. Don't worry, it's alchemy, it's science, it's mathematics, it's gematria, it's everything that's encoded in here that I'm researching and looking at, and I've got references to. So you will get all of this in the publication once it's finished, all right? So that in itself, that was by Gansder. So none of you know what's going off when you do it, but we're all synchronizing, and the information is coming in just at the right moment, at the right time, by many that don't know what they're doing. But it's just, as a messenger, I cannot Adam and Eve most of what is going on, when it goes on, how it goes on, and the prolific meaning of that to man now in this time. That, along with where we're at with the trust, the equity, the law, the proclamations, the claims, the languages, the quantum grammar, the syntax, and yeah. So, the emergence of a glorious new culture in Florence signalled the end of the Dark Ages. Yeah, we've got that. We call this period the Renaissance, meaning rebirth, which is a fitting name, for at the heart of the Hermetic philosophy is the idea of spiritually being reborn. Let's look at when you get baptized. Where have they got that from? The water, being reborn. Things are definitely sinking into place here. When we say that methodology, ideas and science and history has been taken, hijacked, usurped, rewritten, Christopher Hitchens style, yeah? You're feeling me? Oh dear. So the ancient pagan wisdom arrived in Florence as a fortuitous moment in history. Within a few years, the first painting presses arrived in Italy, and the pagan wisdom was printed and dispersed throughout Europe. Students of New Learning, as the Florentine experiment became known, were sent out as emissaries, beginning new movements wherever they went. I can't spell this word, this name, R-E-U, I can't say it, I'll spell it here, Reuchlin. Reculin, the father of the Reformation and teacher of Luther and Erasmus. Lex Luthor. I'll leave it there. Lucifer, Luther, left Florence and sowed the earliest seeds of the Protestant Reformation in Germany. Thomas Linacre founded the Royal College of Physicians in London. Thomas Linacre. Okay, so when I say, here's the backup to that now, the mathematician of Nicholas of Cusa, the physician Paracelsus, and the architect Brunelleschi, and the astronomer Toscanelli, whose famous map inspired Christopher Columbus. What? All owed their inspiration to the Florentine reawakening of the spirit of ancient paganism. I see the room is rather busy. Keep the comments in, I will look at them and scan them afterwards, and thank you. Now, Copernicus' momentous claim that the sun, not the earth, is at the centre of the solar system was a choice, not an actual scientific discovery. Flat Earth crew. No, it don't matter. When made after studying Hermetic Platonic philosophy at an Italian university. All right, so let me read that again. Copernicus' momentous claim that the sun, not the earth, is at the centre of the solar system was a choice, not a discovery. Made after studying Hermetic Platonic philosophy at an Italian university. I'll leave it there. Moving on. On the first page of the On the Revolution of the Celestial Orbs, published in 1543, Copernicus quotes the words of thrice great Hermes. The sun is the visible God, as in Alexandria 1,000 years earlier. The Renaissance viewed science, art, literature and religion as parts of a united whole to be studied together as one. How exciting and great is this? It was a situation that challenged the authorities of the Roman Catholic Church, and in 1492, with the aid of the King of France, they crushed the Republic of Florence. Now, Santos has written, many things and presented, not written, presented, and I've watched his videos and had emails with him and written publications about black cardinals, Carthage, Italy, Phoenicia, where Phoenicia was, tin trading with thousands of years ago, even to Anglo, Phoenicia to Anglo thousands of years ago, and then the migration, the black nobility, and going over to Venice, which is then Phoenicia, Italy, black nobility going that way to Venice and setting up there. There was a lot more to add into this. Later, it's going to be about that thick when it's finished. So I have the missing parts of this, because to tell it you all would probably take 2 days, 48 hours, and you'd fall asleep. Your saturation point would go. So where you've heard me talk before, and Santos and Jordan and others, and you've read books and self-scholars of this channel, you will be able to fill in an amazing amount very, very soon, and across 8,000 years of lineage, accurately, correctly, more concise than ever before, because of the ability we have to study, research, and encapsulate books, scholars, Jordan, Santos, what did I say, Zachariah Sitchins, and also Eric von Daniken, many, many more. Just to study one of them names is enough to, your consciousness. But now we have the internet, videos, PDFs, downloads, technology, interaction. It really has got as strong as it's ever been. And with mans like me and others and you self-scholars and scribes out there, the game is up, the time is nigh, and the evidence is irrefutable. So there's, for the Christians out there and the Catholics that are wondering if this is wrong and everything we've been led to believe and what we've been doing is lies, wrong, hijacked, corrupted, what have we got? This is the moving on from when all that crumbles, the finance, the economic, well, what have we got? A pandemic and an epidemic. So we got money, we got health, we got religion, we got science is all going in, like World Trade Center. Sorry, it's still standing, but soon it's going to be, crumbling in very, very soon, with publications and articulations and interactions like this. I am available to take donations, to be booked, to speak and to do presentations calmly, concisely, effectively, non-vexatiously. I'd rather stop cleaning mould off walls in Birmingham and doing what I'm doing. I am covered in cuts and bruises. I manage toxic black mould for, I make man's house better. And I go there, everybody's upset, not happy, pin everything, sorry, and they see me, I turn up, and I turn black, mouldy, dirty, dank rooms into bright, sparkling, clean rooms at risk to myself, and health-wise. This is not my forte, it's not my progression. I'd like to move on for the greatness of the trust and to interact with you and to talk respectfully, articulately, non-vexatiously, and to accomplish a great many deeds and to correct and to go against the church, the Catholicism, the Judeo, what we're talking here, and to help you that are lost, confused. And tonight, later, with myself and Kevin, when we come back for a live update, we'll discuss all of this. But I am eagerly wanting to go and talk and present, and we have an annual meeting, general meeting, but we'll call it an annual meeting to do this year. I'm looking for venues, we're looking to help communities, we're looking to do a great many things here. So I appreciate my videos and topics and contents, many and varied, but they are all linked. I'm looking to break out, as we all are, but I can help lead. I'd like to be a guiding star that some of you follow and to link up with. The .com's very busy, Facebook's looking medium, there's a lot of watchers and trills and leeches on there, which is why I've changed and adapted my interaction and availability, not because of arrogance or anything, but I have a job to do and I want to be the one to do my job. Everyone else can do theirs. My day job in cleaning mould, bacteria, mouldy mushrooms, rotten wood. I'd rather do these kind of things, go out into the community, and if you've seen my previous videos, you'll realise that we're in the shit, all right? So yeah, I'll leave that there. Although the heady days of the new academy were over, the suppression was too late to prevent the ripples of its influence expanding ever outwards. Florentine scholars were dispersed across Europe and became known as the Fifth essence, the taste for all things Italian, art, sculpture, fashion, literature and philosophy was insatiable. Within less than 200 years, the Renaissance had conquered Europe. The unifying religion. Here we go. This will be interesting for Anglo, I do believe. I'm going to take pleasure in saying this. In England, the works of Hermes had a profound effect on the circle of courtiers surrounding Elizabeth I. Sir Philip Sidney, Sir Walter Raleigh, John Donne, Christopher Marlowe, William of the Shakespeare, George Chapman and Francis Bacon were all acquainted with the works of the Egyptian sages. Elizabeth's personal astrologer, whom she referred to as her philosopher, was the enigmatic hermeticist John Dee. He, a brilliant mathematician and the first person to translate the complete works of Euclid into English. Dr. Dee owned the greatest library in England, and his home was regarded as a third university to Oxford and Cambridge, or as I like to call it, Oxbridge. He was visited, I coined that word I believe as well, I haven't heard anybody else say that, it's not a competition, but Oxbridge. He was visited by scholars from all over Europe and made frequent journeys to Prague, where the first detailed commentaries on the Hermetica were being written. At this time, Prague was the capital of Bohemia, an enlightened republic where the Hermetic scholars, Platonic philosophers, Jewish rabbis and scientists of every nation found sanctuary at the court of Rudolf II. Rudolf, it's a reindeer, isn't it? Well, it's not often you hear the name Rudolf, is it? The second. Europe was being ravaged by the wars of religion between Protestants and Catholics, and in Bohemia, another way was proposed, Hermeticism. Evangelists of the new Egyptian religion of thrice great Hermes, such as Giordano Bruno, I think Santos has just said Bruno before, but Giordano Bruno travelled extensively in Europe. Bruno interpreted the new sun-centered cosmos proposed by Copernicus in an entirely mystical way. As the rising of a new sun at the dawning of a new age, he believed that the Egyptian religion of Hermes was the ancestor of the Greek mystery schools, the religion of Moses and the Jews, and the birthplace of Christianity. In Bruno's imagination, it was now poised to become the unifying religion in which Jews, all denominations of Christians, Platonic humanists, and even Muslims could meet and then, indeed, in turn, resolve their differences. Bruno's courage and conviction was nowhere more clearly demonstrated than in his decision to return to Italy, where within a short time he was arrested by the Roman Catholic Church. Silly man, but there you go. That shows you the control, the establishment, the mainstream narrative, and if you go against that, and how you will be punished for. I don't laugh at him, I just laugh at the situation with that. We hear that today. Fact checkers. He endured 8 years of torture, during which he refused to recant, and in 1600 was led outside into the Square of Flowers in Rome and ceremonially burnt alive. The vision of a universal Hermetic religion was fated to now fade, but its influence remained strong amongst visionaries and scientists. So Isaac Newton, for example, you heard me mention him before about one of the last types of alchemists of the time for the establishment. So that's where that bit's come from here. I've not brought you all this before, but you see where if those of you that listen and are attentive will now be able to, I hear the pennies dropping and the bits going into place. For example, like many men of his time, Isaac Newton was passionately interested in alchemy, the patron god of which was thrice great Hermes. Indeed, the word alchemy means from Egypt. The astronomer Kepler published quotes from the Hermetica in his greatest work, On the Harmony of the World. In 1614, the poet John Milton celebrated the wisdom of Hermes, writing, "Or let my lamp at midnight hour be seen in some high lonely tower, where I may oft outwatch the bear with the thrice great Hermes, or unsphere the spirit of Plato to unfold what worlds or what vast regions hold the immortal mind that have forsook her mansion in this fleshy nook." That's his second Penseroso. The demise of thrice great Hermes. At the same time as Milton was writing, however, the ground was being cut away from under the authenticity of the Hermetica. Previously, these works had been believed to be of extreme antiquities, dating back to the time of the pharaohs. In 1614, a scholar called Isaac Casaubon published a textual analysis. I'm name dropping like, drop, 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 another one, drop, 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 another one, drop, 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 another one. Oh, 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 oh. Let me see if you can dance like Michael Jackson. Let me see if I turn up the mic fraction. There's a nice jungle tune there. I forget who it's by. Drop another one. Not a cue drop, but a name drop, okay? Lost in space like Neil Armstrong. Can you hum melodies like Louis Armstrong? Oh no, what have I done? I shouldn't have done that. Anybody that knows that rhythm track, please put a link into it. It's one of the greatest... Mikasa Su Casa. That's what we are. Alright, stop spiking. In 1614, a scholar called Isaac Casaubon published a textual analysis of the Hermetica, which showed quite correctly that the grammar, vocabulary, form and content of the Greek versions of these works dated them to no earlier than the 2nd and 3rd centuries CE. They were not written by ancient Egyptian sages, he claimed, but by scholars in the city of Alexandria. Their philosophy was nothing more than an exotic blend of Greek, Christian and Jewish philosophy. Let's mix that, DJ. We've got a remix going on there, mixed up with astrology and magic. So, you see, that's quite a lot to separate. Once you find that that's been mixed up, it gives you an idea of why and how we are here today. This is really not going to go down well with some folk, let me tell you now. They will be establishment squires and... as I've mentioned, the names in here, London and etc. Institutions. The Egyptian names that pepper the text were made more decoration and ornament. The Egyptian names that pepper the text were mere decoration and ornament. Casaubon was one of the most brilliant Greek scholars of his time. With the encouragement of the Christian status quo, his damning criticism was generally accepted. Casaubon had dealt the Egyptian sage a fatal blow, and the books of Hermes were destined to be forgotten as fakes and forgeries. In the modern world, we know from the actions of the tabloid press how one well-timed hatchet job can unjustifiably undermine someone's reputation for good. Hate campaigns, paparazzi, the sea of paper rats. That is exactly what happened to thrice great Hermes. Casaubon was a fine scholar, but was motivated by a hidden political agenda. A bit like the previous cast, where that scribe come on and said, a lady called Liz says I'm talking rubbish. I can't wait to get on that later tonight. This is exactly how the realm works, all right? Money talks and walks. This is exactly what happened to thrice great Hermes. Casaubon was a fine scholar, but he was motivated by a hidden political agenda. The ultra-orthodox James I was now on the throne of England. What? We've just gone from, yes, I know, isn't that magical? And he employed Casaubon and others to purge the magically inclined court of Elizabeth. It's a bold claim. Not many know that. Hermeticists, like John Dee, were ostracised. Later, Casaubon's son, Merrick, wrote a book which portrayed the great philosopher as a confused occultist. Dee died alone and forgotten, Nonetheless, some of Casaubon's claims regarding the Hermetica are true, or seem to be true. The books of Hermes are undoubtedly the products of many authors, not one ancient sage. Hence, the master brain and Napoleon Hill and his types of methodology, how I've emulated and kind of copied and followed and brought this to you, and how we work now. It's not one man's job. No one man can be an expert in all matters. Not a chance. We do it together. We do it as one. We do it unified. We do it respectfully. We do it honourably. There is a new way coming for this year. When I said it's the last year, I mean it's the last year. So I'm bearing that in mind with my works, presentations, our works, presentations and documents that are coming forward. We're about to put in the hyperdrive system, all right, and go to another paradigm this year. By December, you will all be grinning like Cheshire cats. Those of you that want to, follow and work with. Later, Casaubon's son Merrick wrote a book which he portrayed the great philosopher as a confused occultist. Dee died alone and forgotten. Nonetheless, some of Casaubon's claims regarding the Hermetica are true. The books of Hermes are undoubtedly the products of many authors, not one ancient sage, and they were certainly composed in the first few centuries of our era. So when was the New Testament composed, and who composed that, and what did they bear in mind when they composed that then? Constantine. When I said Constantine was a pagan and then baptised, the thing, I wasn't being horrible. I'm just now, are they cha-ching, kum, oosh, bosh. Hermes was credited with these writings, even though we know they were the composite work of many scholars. But this does not discredit either them or Hermes. It was a common practice in antiquity for authors to ascribe their work to the god who gave them their inspiration. This was a mark of respect, not an attempt to deceive. On the second charge, Casaubon is also right to claim that the Hermetica was written down in 2nd century Alexandria. But all the modern evidence suggests that it does in fact express Egyptian beliefs filtered through the understanding of the Greek scholars of the period. When we look at the word Egyptian and how that's spelled, that is a Greek spelling. Even if all Casaubon's criticisms were correct, this would neither diminish the Hermetica's wisdom nor alter the fact that it has profoundly influenced some of the greatest minds in history. As old the Christian Gospels and older the Quran, it is one of the great sacred texts of the world. It is worthy of respect and study for those reasons alone. Would you not agree? Now we're going to look at the pharaohs and the wisdom therein. When Casaubon was writing, very little was actually known about ancient Egypt. The hieroglyphs themselves were not translated until 2 centuries after his death. Consequently, many modern scholars now believe that he was wrong to see the Hermetic philosophy as a 2nd century invention, especially since the discovery of the pyramid texts of Saqqara at the end of the last century. These hieroglyphs are over 5,000 years old and yet contain doctrines that are identical to those expounded in the Hermetica. This suggests that the Hermetica may indeed contain the wisdom of the pharaohs, which scholars in 2nd century Alexandria reworked for a contemporary readership. Okay, there's another ship there, readership, viewership. The Hermetica contains passages reminiscent of Jewish, Christian and Greek words. And Casaubon saw this as some kind of proof that the Hermetica could possibly be some kind of forgery. You could see how that was done. Created from a hodgepodge of these other philosophies, Alexandria was such an electric environment that this is plausible. This is like a modern day Alexandria, what we have going on now with all the creeds and the religions and the races and the spiritualism, and where we are with the languages and the churches and the coming together, kind of in a modern day Alexandria of the Renaissance of at this moment. So Alexandria is risen again. The Jews lived for many years in exile in Egypt, and their greatest prophet Moses was brought up as an Egyptian. Many early Christians lived in Egypt, and the Greeks were in awe of the Egyptians, compared to whom they felt like children. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus writes, I'm getting bad with my pronunciations, and my dyslexia does make me stumble, so please forgive me if I do say things wrong. I am aware of this. I am aware of the criticism and the critique. I want praise and grumble, not vexation and malice, please. Herodotus writes, the Egyptians are religious to excess beyond any other nation in the world. They are meticulous in everything which concerns their religion. It was only, if I may put it so, the day before yesterday that the Greeks came to know the origin and the form of the various gods. The names of all the gods came to Greece from Egypt. Okay, allegedly, it appears so, I would argue. For the names of all the gods have been known in Egypt from the beginning of time. And that's from Herodotus. And Casaubon particularly claims that the Hermetica plagiarized the Timaeus, a work written by a Greek philosopher, Plato. I've got a lot to say about Plato and Know Yourself and Socrates, but I need to keep it separate. But in the 5th century BCE, like the Hermetica, it includes the doctrines of astrology and reincarnation. Yet these ideas played no part in early Greek religion, or seem to have played no part. I can't, 95%. So where did they come from? The answer, of course, is ancient Egypt. Over 100 years before Plato, the Greek sage Pythagoras had set out on a journey to acquire the knowledge of the world. This eventually led him to Egypt, and there he spent 22 years in the temples being initiated into the religion of the Egyptians. Now I need to stop and pin that, because when we look at Vitruvian, what's the man in the square in the circle? Is it the Vitruvian man? When we look at Pythagorean 1 to 9 and the sequential patterning of 1 to 9 and 1 going up to 9, then 9 stopping and then going all the way back down and having to build up, go to 9, stop and go back down. That's not really a natural, universal, divine, natural, positive order of looping systems and energy. The Vitruvian, and then they go from 1 to 8. 1 to 8, and the way that system is worked is a lot more smoother, natural, divine. There's more to expand onto this bit here. Mathematics in the house, Vitruvian man, something, I'm sure it's that. We need to expand on that bit there about the mathematics and the Pythagorean and the references and the inconsistencies and the non qualities of that mathematic system. You've heard me talk about the Sumerian base 10 and X and say 10 and the base 10 system of the maths there. I've got to publicate. There's so much to amalgamate. It's going to be this thick when it's done. All of the little bits will be redone, edited, perfected with you, and then we'll bring it out again, and there'll be some right chapters in all of this, let me tell you. So according to the ancient Greek scholar Diogenes Laertius, Plato purchased 3 books on Pythagorean doctrines based on Egyptian wisdom, and these he adopted into the Timaeus. The similarities between the works of Plato and the Hermetica are not surprising. Therefore, since many of Plato's ideas were the direct descendants of ancient Egyptian philosophy. So what do we call that then? We call that fraud, we call that theft, we call that imitation, you call that, he didn't originate, he imitates. So we're going to look at some kind of Christianity in the Hermetica from early on now. We're getting to the end. I'm on page 53 of 85. You're not getting all 85, but just to let you know how big this document is, and it's not finished yet. It may end up 250 plus pages, to be fair, by the end of this year. I'd like time to be able to do all of this in between Monday to Friday graft and putting stuff together and writings and publications and crediting and edits and corrections, but the lack of access and the lack of resources that we have makes this incredibly hard. Hermetic philosophy also influenced Christianity through the Alexandrian Church Fathers. So I've mentioned Clement before in other publications. Saint Clement is back. and Saint Origen, who synthesized pagan and Christian religious doctrines. It is due to such theologians that the Hermetic concept of the Word is found in the opening verse of the Gospel of John. What? Exactly, you see? So don't feel that we're attacking, we're articulating, we're sourcing, and we're referencing, and we're joining back up previous claims and quotes that we've said, and beliefs that we have. To believe is to not know, and to know is to be able to concisely reference and say. So if you believe something, it's because you don't know. You're in some kind of a cult. We know, and we will argue honourably, and we will do it respectfully. In the beginning was the Word, and Jesus is described as the Word made flesh, is he not? Hermes, Thoth, was known to the ancients as the scribe of the gods and master of the Word. Oh, only Hitchens need like a little thing here to put quotes in. And in the Hermetica, God utters a word which claims the chaotic waters of creation. The Word is even called the Son of God. In Christianity, Jesus Christ is also called the Son of God. Yes, in that heliocentric bibliothèque, is identified as an embodiment of the power of the Word. Word up, new word, new view on that word. Saint Augustine of Hippo, the influential 4th century theologian who was familiar with the work of Hermes, or works of Hermes, he writes this: that which is called the Christian religion existed among the ancients and never did not exist. When we talk about pre-Christian gnosis and antiquities, bosh. From the beginning of the human race until Christ came in the flesh, which at the time, the true religion which already existed began then to be renamed, re-edited and pushed into Christianity. St. Augustine, Retractions. The influence of the Hermetica on early Christianity is beyond doubt. In 1945, works of Hermes were discovered among scriptures belonging to Gnostic Christians of the 1st century CE. Remember the 325 CE and the writings from Constantine and that clan there, the Titus and Flavians, and what I brought to in previous discoveries. According to a note on one of the texts, early Christian communities possessed many copies of the works of Hermes. Just a few yards from the place where these scriptures were found are ancient Egyptian tombs. These were inhabited by early Christian hermits such as Saint Pachomius, the founder of the first Christian monastic. When we talk about monosibyllic, and we've had Josh X in there, this is a monastic community. Monotheism, all right, the worshipping of one God. The walls of these tombs are covered in hieroglyphs. Monotheism is what the word is. Covered in hieroglyphs ascribed to the great god Thoth, Hermes. They describe a spiritual rebirth into the knowledge of God. In such places, early Gnostic Christians pored over the Hermetica and its powerful influence. They composed their own philosophy of a saving of gnosis, GK, knowledge, a direct knowledge. You see why I put the G in front of no, G brackets, no. I got that from Brother Josh, to be fair, and I emulate that because I see where they're going. A direct knowledge of God bestowed by the Messiah, Jesus. All the evidence suggests that Casaubon was wrong to simply dismiss the Hermetica as some cobbled together mixture of many different philosophies. The Hermetica was undoubtedly written by Alexandrian scholars for a Greek spelling or a Greek speaking readership, but it contains a powerful echo of the ancient wisdom on which it was, definitely based. It offers us one of the best windows available to gaze into Egypt's remote past. It offers us with its help, we can understand the mystical vision that inspired the awesome Giza pyramids. G-I-Z-A, not G-E-E-Z-A. Giza is a real crowd pleaser, Ebenezer, the Giza, All right, look at that. Even in London, when we talk about Egyptian and the Gypsies, the Gypsy, the Sea of Egypt, and the Giza and the pyramids, and he's a Giza, a real crowd pleaser, Ebenezer. So, what is Hermetic philosophy that has held such a profound fascination for some of the greatest minds in history? Let's look at minds and gods now. At the heart of Hermes' teachings is one simple idea about ment, and those of you that have looked at the Doriel translations, or the translations of, and the Kabbalion and the Green Emerald tablets of Thoth and the hymns of Hermes and the Hermetica, you will see that there is ment. When we look at the words and we break them down and we look at the etymology, the tetragrammaton, we look at government, go green mind, go green mind, government, payment, meant and lent, and so things like this. Yeah, so the universe is allegedly mind, all is atom and mind and so forth. So God is a big mind. Everything which exists is a thought within the mind of God. This book is a thought in the mind of God. Your body is a thought in the mind of God. Your actions, everything is a thought in the mind of God. These ideas which are being discussed as thoughts in the mind of God, how can we understand this? How can we comprehend this? How can we indeed relate to this? Well, consider for a moment your own experiences, your own thoughts and your own feelings. They exist within your own mind. There are more than 5 senses. And when you, let me think now, when you get into this silent language, inwardly and outwardly, projecting and manifesting your thoughts, the actual real power of prayer, how you pray silently, with intent, full intentions, central intent, focused intent, then you can become very powerful. When you realize this, we are magneto, the realm is electro, you have the magneto-electro. How did all of the particles of the stars be merged in with our own atoms here? So there's a lot to be going on with this. Again, massive splinters and further publications, but the mind, the outer world around you, because your senses give you information which you also then experience within your mind, how you feel, happy, sad, belated, ecstatic, uncertain, anxious. A lot of the mind issues that we're going through now with regards to debt, misery, adoption up 43%, the eradication of the middle class, people, man popping a pill to feel better, self-esteem being low. There are many, too many to mention, feelings in sentences, not just 5, all right, and we talk on a quantum level with this, and that's how everything happens and interacts within your life. You can repel or you can propel, you can do many things within this. At first it blew me, but after some time, 1113, etc., then we've got a lot of work to be doing here, a lot of goodness that can be done, a lot of articulate, concise, non-academic, non-synthesized chemical, neurological poisoning of, and we can do it a whole different way. If we get a chance and if we're allowed to, which is what I'd like to do with the field, the land, any donations, any benefactors that want to help us move forward with the acquisition of private land, moving on to out of the UK, out of England, into Britain, equivalent private management, health, wealth, science, education, mathematics, a complete crumbling of present and building up of the new. Many of you are kind of ushering in the apocalypse, where I and the fam and the scribe are ushering in the golden age, the new dawn, the rebirth. Okay, so it's a 50-50, glass half full, glass half empty. And the meditation, the Buddha, the different, you see how it all now with India and so forth, and the gnosis are all lying up on top of each other. I'm so proud to give you this off this Saturday, the 27th of June. It is not word perfect, and it will, I haven't finished, but it's one of the greatest things that I've ever uttered. Let me check the battery. We're good. 3:15. All right. 15:15. When your mind is completely unconscious, you don't experience anything. Ultimately, everything, the blackness, effectively, Oh, I passed out. I don't know what happened. I passed out. I woke up, and now I'm awake. I was, awake before. I must have fell asleep, and then I've woke back up. There's no in between middle bit. You was awake, and then you find yourself waking up. So you've passed out. It was all black. You're unconscious. Ultimately, everything that exists in your life, I don't often get like that now, is a thought within your mind. Your mind, or ment, however, is limited by being trapped in this physical shell, the body, as the shell game, as Claudio puts it on the video there with SPL's Pro Unscrambled, and the articulation of the International Magna Carta via the Treatise of the Human Rights. We're in a shell, a sleeve. Imagine for a moment that it is not. All right. Imagine that it's free to be conscious of everything at all times and in all places. Then everything that is, has been, and will be, would exist, or will exist, as a thought within your very mind, your consciousness. This is the nature of God's mind. God is not limited by a physical body. God is the big mind within which everything exists. Hermes describes the mind of God as the oneness which unites everything. What does this mean? Again, look at your own experience. You experience many different things within your own mind. Right now, you are listening to this presentation. Before that, you may have been eating or going out, cleaning the car, shopping, doing various tasks. Yeah, all of these different things are experienced by one thing, your mind. It is the oneness that unites all of your experience. In the same way, God's mind is the oneness that unites everything. I don't know if that was explained properly, but I believe that's easy enough to get. Hermes says that this oneness contains all opposites. This paradox can be understood by once more looking at the nature of our own mind, or man's own mind. Some things that we experience are hot and others are cold. We have a scale, a dialect, they're on the same scale, hot, cold, and in the middle is warm. Hate, love, etc. Hegelian, we've talked about this, and so some are bright and others are dark. Some you call good and others you call evil. Nothing that you experience can be both God and the devil. Exactly, you see, and nothing you can experience can both be cold and hot, or good and evil, because they are opposites. Yet both cold and hot, good and evil, are experiences which you have. Your mind is the one thing which contains all opposites. Your mind is contained in every cell. We've got the DNA and the others that we've talked about there, Greg Braden and so forth, with the divine matrix and things. There's too many names to drop in and to go off track with now, but everything we've said before is led up to these teachings and readings and conclusions, and hypothesis is going into the facts now. Hermes teaches that the mind of a human being is in the image of God's big mind. If we can free our mind from mental slavery, only yourself, I'm not doing that again. If man can free his mind, or their mind, from the limitations imposed by the physical body, we can experience the mind of God. Now, anybody that goes out and does astral planing, we were created with the specific purpose, or even remote viewing purpose, of learning to do this. This is the spiritual goal of human life. To reach this destination, we must then expand our consciousness and indeed, in turn, our awareness. We must use the power of our little minds to create, or to reach out to the Creator's big mind. To help us do this, Hermes narrates a dramatic story of how the Creator, or God, creates and maintains the cosmos. It is through appreciating the awesome beauty of the cosmos and understanding by the fundamental laws by which it functions that we can come to know the mind of the Creator and indeed Lord God. It was this vision which fired the imaginations of the great minds of history. It inspired the birth of science by encouraging them to explore the mind of God, by seeking to discover more of how the universe indeed works. Some great modern scientists such as Albert Einstein and Stephen of the Hawkings still describe science as an attempt to understand the mind of God. The Hermetic philosophy places man at the very centre of God's creation. Hermes declares that man is a marvel. With his mind, With his mind, he may not only understand the universe, but even come to know the Creator and Lord God. He is not a mortal body which will live and die. He is an immortal soul. Man is an immortal soul, which through the experience of a spiritual rebirth may then in turn ascension, and become in turn equivalent to a god. And now we're going to look at the final closing chapters of this. I'm getting to the end, you'll be pleased to know, and we're going to look at your comments. You know, a presentation and a document cannot contain all of the teachings at once, all right? We have to break this down, we have to segregate it and give it to you in order of what would we say then, the relevance, and do it in bite-sized chunks, and then eventually we will get all of the information out in the right correct areas, and then we will do the final publications. So we have to be careful and delicate and slow, and in some kind of a scale, a curve. So let me just read that again. We can, however, give an inspiration and intriguing taste of their core doctrines. Now, we've looked at doctrines and the doctrine of notices, the Catholic doctrine, and how these work. So the doctor is in the house, Doctor Who. The main surviving philosophical Hermetic texts are the 18 books known as the Corpus Hermeticum. All right, not the corpus juris, not the body corpus, but you see how the word corpus translates from way before into the corpus juris, you see? So we got the Corpus Hermeticum for you to research there. 17 survive. Book 14 is missing. The Asclepius, the Stobaeus, and various fragments. These works are dense, and somewhat, to be fair, by most, they will be impenetrable. In these new versions that we are creating, and other scholars and authors are creating, that we're bringing to you now, and we're putting together it somewhat with the etymological, religious, legal, lawful, academic, lies, deception, evil, we're having to then take out and then re-put back in. These works are dense and they are impenetrable because of the lies, the deceit, the money, the wars, the religion, the blood, lest we forget. We have new versions. We have selected key extracts and combined them to bring out the essential wisdom and the inherent poetry that they indeed contain. And then in these endeavours, you feel that we are following in true footsteps of the scholars of Alexandria, as I said previously in this video. Stop making me go spiky. Who collated these books from the ancient material that was then available, making them accessible to a contemporary readership. This is my viewership here. Are you enjoying the boats? Our sources are contained in notes, and we will give them to you in documents and the various authors, and for most readers it will be enough to follow a progressive exposition of the essence of Hermeticism, condensed into more manageable sections like many Greek texts. The Hermetic teachings are often presented in the form of dialogues between teacher. I just got my back, I've been sat like this for a while, and just let me limber up. Between teacher and pupil, the voices change in the different texts. Which can be confusing. So we have we choose to avoid, and we simply present a monologue. I'm not sure about that's the correct word, but a mainstream narrative, a monologue by Hermes addressed to you, the reader. Although, we have used familiar term God in the explanatory notes which accompany these, we have avoided the term in the text itself. Instead, we use, Santos taught me this, the first man that I ever heard to say atom, autumn, atom, autonomy, Adam, Adama, Eve, electron, atom, electron. So it would be atom, going back to, and the list of Egyptian gods that I gave you in the beginning there. So this is one of the ancient Egyptian names for the supreme one God. All right. In God we trust, supreme law. There's a reason, there's a narrative, there's a syncretism that's ever so strong at this moment in time, and I'm magnetizing bits without your giving at the right time, without even knowing, which is the magnetism, which is the order of, which is blowing my little tiny current. All right. Stop. Instead, we have used the tongue, blah, blah, blah. We felt that using this unfamiliar Egyptian name would allow you, the reader, the viewer, the opportunity to build up your own conceptual picture of what Thoth or Hermes means by the term, free of any associations that you may have with the word God. You know, it's new versions of work. They're written in foreign languages. We wasn't alive at the time. History has been corrupted. Many wars destroying the evidence. You know, these are extreme antiquities, and you know, we've been through the hands of a number of translators, such as Zachariah of the Sitchins, who may or may not have been a Mason, who may or may not have given incorrect translations, such as how I've named in here, and what we see through Christianity itself. Convert to Christianity or die by the sword. You see, so no more swords, no more death, no more conversions. It's a belief going to knowing, gnosis. So out with the belief, and in this flood, this Renaissance, this Aquarius time, the progression of the zodiac, the astrotheological connections, it's apparent that man needs to do this. We are in a bad way. We are all on our arses across the realm, and now comes the time to join hands in the famous house track there. Brothers and sisters, all join hands. Okay, this is one of the ways that we're going to be doing that. I hope. We're coming. Knock, knock, as Arnie said in Predator, kicked the door through and opened up. We send sentences into courtrooms like soldiers go into battle. All right, we send sentences in effectively, articulately, concisely, and honourably, non-vexatiously. And I can't wait for later tonight. I really can't wait for the chat with us all from about 11 p.m. GMT on this channel. Myself and Kelvin are coming back. And we're gonna Rochambeau with you all, so you can have time to digest, go away, come back. This won't be the only topic tonight, but it will be looked at, and the claims from anybody that wants to come back, like in the first part of the cast, bring it on. We're here, we're ready, and I'm honoured to field and take any questions, comments, concerns, praise, grumble, criticism, articulation. M. Moven, feel free, come back and have a chat. Don't send third parties, come yourself. All right, my sister, my brother, all of you are welcome. So expressed in our native language, the teachings are clear and simple, for the very sound of an Egyptian word resonates with the thing signified by it. All possible measures should be taken to prevent these holy secrets being corrupted by translation into Greek, for instance, which is an arrogant, feeble, showy language, unable to contain the cognate forces of my words. So let's read that again. All possible measures should be taken to prevent these holy secrets being corrupted by translation. And what does it say in the Bible? Those that take the manuscript and rewriting of God's, So prevent these holy secrets, holy, used before the word Holy Bible, being corrupted by translation into the Greek. I'm not saying this, I'm promoting the Greek to dispel this bit here. These are the words of something else in a different context, all right? The Greek language lacks the power to convince, and the Greek philosophy is nothing but noisy chatter. Our Egyptian speech is more than talk, its utterance are replete with power. In the ancient Egyptian language, the sound of the word had a magical power which complemented its meaning. In view of language, which we unconsciously retain when we talk of spelling a word, translation inevitably means that we have lost this original power and clarity. Hermes teaches, however, that through the power of the ment, the mind, all things are indeed possible. And we have tried through the power of contemplation, which Hermes advocates, to distill the essence of his teachings for a new generation of spiritual seekers. Seekers, under the seeker. Although human culture has changed beyond recognition from the times of ancient Egyptians and the alleged 250,000 years that man may have been in existence, the essence and the essential mysteries of life have remained what they have always been, and they will always be. For those alive to the mysteries, the writings of Hermes are as relevant today as they were then in a distant past. And I hope these new versions and explanations and examinations and cross-references and linking up and corrections captures as much as possible as these atom hermetic visions, and that will play some small part in restoring this ancient wisdom and bringing back humanity to a level, a synchronized one world. Here we go, one world order of. So they're going to bring order out of chaos. Well, there won't be any chaos because we're going to correct it before the chaos happens. The chaos theory is in play physically, and I just wanted to express some of these writings and teachings there. So we have some prophecies of Hermes to give you, all right, and to do with philosophy and atom. I'm going to stop the video here. I'm going to look at your comments. I'm on page 56 of 85. All right, and we've got to carry on again with the Holy Land of temples and shrines and the Nile. And there is going to be a part 2 to this, graven stones, the work of Atum, glorious monumentations, heaven, and contemplation of knowledge and truth. We're going to look at the initiation of Hermes, the cosmos teachings, describe a mystical upon which all later Hermes' thoughts, later teachings are allegedly based there. Like I started with the nun in the beginning, with the ancient Egyptian legendary mythology, and Apep, Atum, Set, Osiris, Isis, and what I brought to you there, Isis, Osiris, and Isis. The initiation of Hermes in itself is going to be massive, which is going to bring in Atum, Autumn, all right? So then you've got the being of Atum, and that will be where Hermes attempting to describe God. Atum, although God cannot be defined with words, Hermes gives some clues for us to contemplate along the way. So God and oneness, being supreme and most high. All right. Not going to bring the being of Atum. So we got more chapters there. Too much to mention. Contemplation of creation. Hermes teaches how to see God by contemplating the creation. That comes into the Buddha type mythology in the ancient Eastern. That will go into Indian. That will be not just exclusively Egyptian, Greek. And when you hear me say there was Persians, Greeks, Egyptians and Indians, all right, the circle, we've got a circle of life, not the circle of time, not the circle of life. Like the Simba moment there, where a circle of time is going to be brought to you within all of this, all right, of the creation and contemplation. The living cosmos, okay, so we've got that to look at, and Hermes' way and interpretation, and various scholars and authors of this cosmos, the living, the circle of time. There we go. I knew it was coming up. I do know this document and publication and reworking rather well. In this chapter, Hermes explores the nature of time and change. Okay, and cosmos constantly changing. Things are born, pass away, come into existence again. Old planets dying, old plants dying each winter to return as new shoots each spring. You've got the sine wave to go on where it starts at March, goes through, completes, and goes that way. So you have the half of the dark here, after the half of the light into half of the dark, move that across, you'd go one full circle, starting at 9 a.m. with the March 23rd equinox leading on to, so as we've had the longest day, the solstice just passing of 22nd, 21st of June, was it, at 5:44 p.m. So bosh, this will so much to incorporate, and it's a bit scanty in my mind now, but time regulates natural processes of change in the cosmos. The Bible being written, not so much the New Testaments, but in a way, Mark, Matthew, Luke and John, spring, summer, autumn, winter. Thank you, Jordan, for this. But all we're doing is learning from the best and making our own, which may or may not be effective, comparative, factual. It's kind of dropping into place, and we are correcting a lot and filling in the gaps, but it's going to take all of us. It's not me fixing the world and bringing and writing, it's authors, scholars, all of the ones that I've mentioned and more yet to come. All right, and so we're going to pay homage to everybody, and the respect is going to be due where the respect is due. There'll be no theft, there'll be no copying of Plato and others, and usurpation and subrogation, and oh, look what I've done, look, it's me. No, it's us. Okay, so that will come into play very, very soon. I'm going to look at various gods, conceive, how they are, the creator, Lord, split titles, KJV, all the way up to present day from way back when, and we're going to start with good old Zoroaster, moving forward as we've brought to you, in creation and cosmos and nature in itself, their mind and soul. Then we're going to look at the humankind, creatures capable of appreciating the great beauty of the cosmos, and planets, moon, Saturn, and the correlation between that as well. Venus, love, Mercury, wisdom, Mars, the way that the Romanian days of the week are labelled, and the relevance to Romania, how that was formed, why it was formed, not just specifically Romania, but the lineages and the movement of, and humankind and humanity into existence there, and the ability for man to reproduce, and what goes on in that moment, the zygote, and creation of man itself, the spark. We're going to look at, that's quite in depth, I'll just skim past that. Human culture and the birth or the bornness of human culture. We can use birth because for now, but that will be changed to human culture and the bornness of it. Man is a marvel, discussing the nature of mankind and its special relationship with, not the USA, but with God. We got a special relationship. Man and marvel in itself. So the gods are Tum. Zodiac and destinies. That's not so big. Universal and the particular. So yes, lots. Let me scroll down. Let me see what's going to happen at the end of this document here. And then we're going to look at your questions and your comments and your praise and your grumble and your criticism. If it's not on topic, it won't be getting looked at or read out. We'll be looking at that later. You have a chance to come back later and talk about other issues, questions, concerns, and non-topic subjects. So if I've got some non-topic questions and things in this chat room now, they'll be looked at later on. You've got your sources for text at the end. So here we've got the text and how it's found, and what versions, what books, the names and the prophecies. Hammurabi text, Hammurabi, that's another man in itself, isn't it, that I've mentioned, but Hammadi, Hermetic text, the Corpus Hermeticum, the Stobaeus, the Asclepius, and we've got the Creation Corpus, I've got that, the Nag Hammadi for you there. I'm just reading out so you can have them now rather than waiting, and I've got links to add in at the bottom. So I'm very happy and very ecstatic to be on my day off, bringing you such a interpretation as this. If I may just remind you about the document and the presentation that this continues from. In the beginning there was only the nun, and the nun was dark and sinuous. It lacked both shape and force. It could be compared to a silent vibration that was static and stuck in repose, instead of being in effective, balanced locomotion. Deep inside the nun, there was a desire to remain as it was, a bit like with depression, I suppose, free from the responsibility and the troubles of physical existence. Yet there was also a longing, a will to create a physical world and watch itself grow and escape from this, type of repose. This conflict of intentions, which we all have, definitely, conflict of interest, conflict of intentions, had kept the nun from taking any action. Until the nun took action, the universe was not allowed to experience what we call Genesis. This intellectual quandary of remaining as unmanifested chaos or changing into a manifested order was the intrinsic struggle that predates all of creation. As long as the nun remained as one pool of dark nothing, to no compromise to its dilemma of remaining as chaos or turning into order would or could ever be resolved. And some have said that the dark waters of the nun were originally catatonic. Consciousness, the mind of the universe, was silently sleeping in a deep dreamless slumber. So here you have the creation, allegedly the Big Bang concept, where there was nothing, but yet out of nothing came some kind of physical manifestation of matter, and everything that's in the universe was compacted into that matter, and then it exploded out. It's very deep, and when you look at the rule of and physics, that goes against one of the number one rules of physics there, creating something from nothing. I forget the actual rule, I've got it written down somewhere. Yes, the dark waters of the nun were originally catatonic consciousness. The mind of the universe was silently sleeping. I like that explanation. It goes a lot better than the Big Bang one, which they've presented to us, the academic ones. When we find mathematics, we find that mathematics was not invented by man, it was discovered. And the one rule of physics is that information does not randomly just get appeared. You don't get key logical mathematical information randomly appearing. It's by design, it's by intent. It doesn't, man didn't design and make maths. From what I found, maths is the science of nature, and the encodings and the workings and the proofs and the logic and the information it can't be, it's by grand design. All right, I believe. So we've got that for you on the top of this document now. So where you've got the video history of me. What was the video called? I'll give you the thumbnail and maybe I'll put it in the room. It's right here, ready for me to get. I remember sharing it. Oh, everyone, 1 minute. On my profile. So you've got the precursor to. The video is called Order Chaos, Life, Death, Corona Crown. And the thumbnail looks like that. So what I've just started reading from is that there, okay? It's on. It would be better if I put it onto Tube and then get it you in the post. But if you go to my channel, and I'll put it in the details, all right, for you. So come back in a bit once this cast is finished and look at the description of this video, and I will give you the relevant links to that video there, and you will hear me in the beginning. Let me just check that is. It's March the 15th. How are we doing? Thank you for already pre-warming the pews there, as it is. Digital seeds. 1 hour, alright, that's all you've got to watch there. 16 likes and 285 views. I don't think man's really cognised what we've presented and how we've put that up there. So just look for that icon with the man with the star on his head. Who would that be, or what would that represent, eh? Alright, so thank you for that. Now to the comments, if I may. Just grab a drink and get the room loaded up. In fact, I'll do it on the tablet. This is going to be hard, but I'll try my best. Gansders, Fly, Yar, Eric, Jerry, Claire. I'm looking at comments as I say your names as well. All good. I'm a Viking. A Viking. Well said there, Jerry. Wow, bosh. Don't mess around, do you? You are the best scribes man could ever wish for. There is a book called Cymroglyphics that translates the glyph of Egypt. Thank you. It's very tiny text. I can't cope with that. That's too tiny. 1 minute. Noticed my eyesight seems to be deteriorating. That's not helping matters at all. So bear with while I load up for the comments, and I'll read it from the laptop if that's all right, and say hello to you all. Lisa, Shadow, Mew, Bruno. It's still hard for me to see. Right, we're on there. Bravo. What else we got in the house? Nonna. Kevin, easy brother. What else do we have? Anybody else? Got it on live chat. Okay, Chippy Paul. Easy. Right, I'll get into the comments if that's all right, and then I want to see what you've put, if there's anything. I'm excited about doing that. I've took great pleasure in doing that. It's been an honour, a privilege, and it's not finished. It's not over. It's very raw, and it gives you an idea now of how we've come to the conclusions we've come to, why we've said the things we've said, how we know there is a direct usurpation and misdirection of man, energy, time, resources, science, health and wealth. This virus thing that's going around right now could be sorted out very, very easily by the correct application of scientists. So where you hear the public speakers of the health department and the World Health Organization talking about scientific and factual, I'm sorry, I am so sorry, but given I've had to say this first before I go on and criticise and tear down the current methodology, bacterial, virus, science, health, wealth, silver water, Bosnian water, herbs, the way that we're doing things and how we're doing it is very, very much disturbing me, and we're being lied to, such as the dealing of cancer, the treatment for cancer, mind issues, the inclusion of poisons in our food, drugs, microbacterial, microengineering, biological farming, chemicals, poison. It's all got to be looked at and stopped, and when I tear down and criticise and critique, I will then be able to articulately reference my points and claims, so you don't just think it's anger and vexation and he's against the establishment, and no, it's all articulate, and as I make claims I will back up and prove everything. It takes a busy man to walk in my footsteps, and it takes a brave man, and it takes an honourable man, which there aren't many busy, brave woe-mans like that around, and consciousness seems to have taken a massive dive, to be fair. Intelligences, to quote the late great George Carlin there, have IQs dropping rapidly, the reluctance to want to learn, to read, and to be fair, it's too much. I haven't done this myself. I've done this with many names, tens of names and tens of books there, so it's taken a while, hasn't it? Crocodiles. I'll only be able to see a little bit of the chat starting, maybe. We'll see. I said hello. I'm just going to look through the comments now. We are self-scholars, Bruno. We do learn for ourselves. Yeah, that's indeed what we do there. Carl, GTA San Andreas. What's that all about? Carl Jung. My dad did the same for me. What are you saying here, Eric? I I shall forever thank my parents for not having me baptised. My father told me later in life it was so I could learn for myself and make an informed choice. Yes, Lisa, indeed, great parents. Alember, Libans, knowledge. Thank you, Bruno. Wow. We'll catch up later. Have a great day. Much love for all. Thank you, Nonna. We'll see you later tonight, sister. Wish I could take you in person, David, to enlighten my conditioned family friends. They give me that blank stare and turn away when I respectfully attempt to engage what I have learned through you. Oh, my love, bosh. Well, I'd like to say myself, Kev, and others that we will appoint witnesses, ambassadors, emissaries later on, are open to building up the trust, taking land initially as a donation, temporarily to occupy. We won't want the land forever. Unless you want to give, but we would like to borrow, set up, start the beginning of the new way forward, and then donations and any kind of benevolent benefactors that may be out there that could help initialise and kickstart what we want to do. In turn, together, we will benefit each other. International, when I say that, realm-wide. I'm moving around, Lisa, so I am openly up for bookings, talks, discussions. We're having a general annual meeting, an AGM equivalent this year. We're going to meet up in the physical form. Now the rules and etc. Statutory public codes there, and we'll look to build up upon that and get me out of Birmingham cleaning mould and stripping wallpaper and rotten things like that, and getting into an area of substance. Otherwise, I dare say we're all going to be in trouble. Going forward, and to explain and to articulately, concisely have chats with, I would like to do, sister and brothers. So we're looking into Alan Wilson and Baram as well. We'll talk about that tonight. They have done most of the work already. What work have they done, and what have they proclaimed? Is it in the public? I will look at that later. Give us some information, please, Yar. 60 plus years. Wow. Okay. Thank you. I've got a lot to catch up on, but we have done 6,000 years worth of lineage. So I'd like to cross-examine and look at the referencing for, and I would take great satisfaction. But that's going to take 60 years worth of work. That's going to take a master brain. What would we call that then? A board of. A collective, an established council to look at that and compare it. So wow, I didn't know it was that much. Thank you very much. Alright, carry on. I think that must be another Alan Wilson to what I'm familiar with then, judging by what you're saying there, Yar. So 1953 with King Arthur, and then they were led to find missing history and filled in the missing deciphered scriptures way back. Well, I'm not emulating and copying any of their work. You can compare it and see. So I'm doing my own, and I've not stolen or emulated, or otherwise you'd all be going, that's what you're doing, and I'm not. So thank you, and work in progress, fam. I've never heard of them, never ever. A bit like Chris Hitchens, you don't know what you don't know, but then when you know, you don't know, now you know. I'm going to go into a biggie mode then. Yes, Kev, thank you. Oh, to 9, like, whoa, ALKS, Lee, CCNDRH. You are a unique mind there, yo. Just a quick visit, fan broadcasting. Yes, we will, indeed we will. Thank you for that, Eric. Latin comes from the Bardic alphabet. Edward Williams, the forger. Yeah, there was a lot of that. This is why I'm trying to point Indy and others to Alan Wilson. And yeah, we'll have a look then, don't worry. We'll get that done. We'll get that done. We've got our own pathway, our own discovery. And then once we've done that, like I said to I can't think now, so many names. Lado on Facebook, I've got so many emails and documents to look at, and alternatives too. It takes time. I'd like to do my work first, and then after my work look at others and compare and cross-examine, because I've already got too much to bring out. So I have to get done what I need to get done, and once I've got done what I need to get done, I'll start looking at others. But I have got my own work, my own mission, my own focus here to get out and express. And then after that, by all means, you know, we've been in this a long time. Nobody seems to have remedied much. We all seem to have, in the public that is, in the private you don't know, because they've gone into private and they won't speak. And there's the, you know, the honourable side of exiting the battle, calling a truce of trust. So, Bosh, thank you. I'm very excited about this. Thank you, yeah. John 15:151. No longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything I have learned from my Father I have made known to you. Oh, that is nice intent. We've worked out the scriptures, the authors, the intent, the Old Testament, the New Testament, and I'll take that with the intent that it's meant there. 3 always comes back to 3. Nice one, Eric. Records and everything to back what they say. That's right. That's why I've given you names, times, history. There's no point just coming out with a thesis. Anybody can sit there. Talk is cheap. Indeed, you've got to always citate, reference, back up, like we've done with the law, the legal, the travellers, ethnicity. The prima facie of it is not good enough, is it? So, yeah, well said. You must try to always reference, citate, and give the sources too. I am refusing to give all sources because I'm aware of the hostility, as I've pointed out in this presentation, and those that just take the work of others and present it as their own. I've never heard of these names before, some of them. So, yeah, thank you. This is all a consciousness the universe presents when it is time. And Yah and others and scribes and scholars are presenting, you don't know, everything, even my mum, from away in the beautiful island of... That's for you lot. Not just a cause, but nice wooden heart. Too many comments, but thank you. I'll look at them all, as I'm duly bound to do, as you've listened to me. History is written by the victors, indeed, my sister. The deeper you go, the more and more you see, is what I would say. Thank you. Deep diving today. G-Star, you've missed it. You need to rewind this. If you just popped in right at the end there, you have missed quite a lot. You need to rewind selector. Lisa, that is brilliant. No more wading in the 3-foot part of the pool. No, the gloves are off. This is the last year for me to take you where I want to take you. I need you to hear and look at and give me your praise and grumbles. This will be initially uploaded to the .com. We will compare, contrast, improve, correct, amend, add, and thank you all for this. And then we will have a publication where I've done the segments. I will then put them back, and they will be amalgamated into one. The final chapter, XO Recordings, The Prodigy, the final chapter. What an album that was. I was about 14 at the time there. Wow. Self-initiates say, always listen to your mother. Sorry, too much. Drop, another one. Let me just get that. What an amazing tune. I've done a video before. I've encapsulated. Drop another one. I need to know that artist. DJ Fresh, was it? Something like that. I don't know. Let's try this one. Classical Mozart. Oh, Indy, you're going to get some copyright claim here. You're going to have to mute this bit, so no speaking. Just put it here. I'll be back. Enjoy that just for a minute. Interlude. Lost in space like Neil Armstrong, used to hum melodies like Louis Armstrong. That's what we're doing, dropping the names. Q dropping, where I'm still waiting for Q. Moving on, regardless. I know things are happening, but what a tune that is. If you'd like to search DJ Fresh, All That Jazz, that was something I have played many hundreds, if not 1,000 plus times. It always went down really well. DJ Fresh, All That Jazz, original full song at 720p, but it's there's no video to it. It's just got a little banana there for you to watch. But that's one of my all-time favourites, Classicas. Claire Ann Mulholland, I need to go out. Thank you for the enlightenment, David. Oh, no problem. Thank you very much for your attention, your time, for paying attention. You paid me attention, and in turn, you go away, hopefully, a better version. Fibonacci, Phi and Pi, indeed, there, the golden ratio. Yeah, Pythagorean, Fibonacci. Yeah, when we say pi and phi, Fibonacci, the Bonacci, you've spelt that, I don't know, Banacci, Fibonacci, is it Bon or Ban? Beauty, perfection, nice one, yeah. Eugenics, indeed, good comment there, Lisa. I will miss first 90 minutes, you'll catch up for this eve. Wow, this is not really, this is just one topic here. The guiding star, Ra, guiding stars, the Magi, and the waking of the dead. All right, we're not dead, we're all alive, but you're considered and viewed in the legal system, corpus, you know. So I'm going to collect and magnetize those that want to move forward, and you know, we don't just use the mainstream narrative, we go a little bit deeper. Changing the background of the screen from white to pink or blue will help reading if you can. Ah, yes, indeed. I like white text on blue background works for me well. Yeah, with my dyslexic issues. Yes, thank you. Feeling the love. I send love back at you all. Jack Black, easy now. Hola. Thank you. If you'd like to give me a thumbs up and a share to any way you'd like with your fam. So now then, what do you think of this madness from Brother Dave? How long have we been on? It doesn't say. I can't remember when I started. It just says live. So thank you for the 15 thumbs up. 1 thumb down. My local trill, my resident trill is there. I have about 5 at the minute after me minimum that I'm annoying, and I'm taking pleasure in that, because if I'm annoying folk, it means that they are folk as well, flock, then it means I'm doing something right. I have a lot more to bring you. The documents, proclamations, claims, correction of titles and rights, reservation, statutory, moving to one side, the rulings of articulation, equity, the rules of the trust, and the ceasefire, the truce, and moving, you know, into the trust, the truce of trust. Is on for this year. We're in June. All right. I'd like some response to David at splspro.com. If you could please help me out with the trust. If you can help yourself out, us with any kind of assistance, that would be greatly appreciated. So I'll put in here. Kevin's got his email up and running now. We're going to announce that tonight, and you can all start getting in touch with Bro Star Kevin as well. There are 3 of us working on email at the .com. We have G-Star, which he remains private, and then we've got myself and Kev. So you'd email me there directly. There will be a delay because I'm out Monday to Friday, as I said, doing what I do, and then you will get that Patience is a Virtual reply as soon as I possibly can, and we will look to move forward and utilise everything. If we can't, then we have to wait till we use the resources that we've been given. I have been in touch with the Royal Bank of Scotland for a DSAR regarding the alleged TDA account that was done, the Treasury Direct access, the trust itself, assessed KV, assessed K, and that is being looked at by the data controller for the group of companies, banks there, RBS. So I will be getting an answer, all right, very soon with regards to what I have asked and claimed and found and used previously some years ago, and I'm very excited about that. Do not worry too much. Try to keep the self-esteem high and the anger and anxiety low. I'm nearly getting, where I want to be for myself with my own development, my presentation, my energy, my self-esteem in itself. I've been quite angered, vexated, tired, and not the best version of myself these last few months, and I'm sure most of you haven't. So it's time to move out and to protect ourselves with ourselves, not relying on anybody else, a third party, and you're looking at what we've got and how we can best use that, and you pulling like Alexandria there with the Persians, the Indians, the Greeks, and the so wow, Egyptians. This presentation is as factual and an on point as it can be. It is not perfect, and it is open to the corrections, errors, omissions, etc. Not that we're talking pallets here, and I'm very happy to have done this, and I can't wait for the final publications for all of the chapters and segments to be put together. And I'd like to look at meeting some of the authors and the self-scholars. I've only mentioned a few here, but there are probably 10 to 20 minimum, and some of them I'd like to get all under one roof and say thank you, fist bump them, credit them, and then see to our works. Academia is taking a lot of the documents we're writing, myself and Kevin, notices. I'm not sure, has anybody got an account on academia.eu where we could have a look and see, and you could screenshot, because I haven't got one, Kevin hasn't got one, and our writings, publications, documents are being uploaded and shared realm wide. So we're exiting Babylon, and it's all for the good, it's all for the love. 2 hours, wow, thank you. That's it, we're over target. Good work. Ciao bello. We'll see you later, approximately 11 p.m. Myself and the living legend that is, what you talking about, Willis? Kevin of the Phillips clan. All right, much love. Oh, see you in my room. No. Ciao bello. Thank you all.